Hi folks, I'm Nathan with Two Guys in a Ride, and today we're here at the Minneapolis Auto Show, and we're here with Ralph, and we're here with a very, very unusual car. Ralph, tell us what we're looking at.
Well, this is indeed an unusual car. As a matter of fact, there's only two of these cars ever made, and only one of them has been on display, and you're looking at it right here. First of all, I'd like to thank the Twin Cities Auto Show. I'd like to thank Trevor and Kyle and Garage Force for providing the flooring on this beautiful display.
Absolutely.
This is a 1963 Ford Cayuse. It came off the line as a 1963 Ford Falcon Futura.
And so, I mean, the Cayuse was a project car, and it was actually developed in when they were taking a look at building the Ford Mustang.
That's correct. The Cayuse was part of a project called Project Cayuse, and the intent of Project Cayuses was to elicit design ideas for the Mustang.
Okay.
And the Cayuse project was headed by, or initiated by, Dearborn Steel Tubing.
Okay. Which is still in existence.
It is still in existence, right. And most recently, their most recent vehicle was a 2001 reintroduction of the Mercury Marauder.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
That's
right.
where it was made.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ford decided they wanted to put out the Mustang. They needed some concept cars to kind of to sell them to people, right?
That's correct.
So this was like a trial thing. Let's see what they like.
That is also correct, yeah. When they did this, they looked for a sporty European design, something that would catch somebody's eyes and appeal to a broad spectrum of auto enthusiasts. It was first displayed in the Ford Custom Car Caravan. And the Ford Custom Caravan was very similar to this introduction of cars, but it was all vehicles that could have been just concept cars.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was displayed multiple times
Right, yeah.
Over a number of months after it was finished.
Right.
And kind of people were just looking at it, and Ford wanted their reaction. Do you like
Right.
this? Does it look good? So eventually, the vote was not for the Cayuse, and
That's correct.
eventually Ford dropped it.
Yes.
However, there were three developed, right, in
Yes.
this process, and they're all slightly unique.
Yes.
And we'll get back to those in a minute, and then find out why yours is unique. But they were ordered to be crushed,
That is absolutely correct.
and somebody saved them.
You bet. And if you look back in the history of this project, Dearborn Steel Tube, the people that worked on this project were kind of like renegades, okay? If somebody would say to do something, they may say, well, no, I'm not going to do that. And that's exactly what they did when Ford came through to them and say, well, we're going to go with a different design for the Mustang. And oh, by the way, Project Cayuse is canceled. Well, they took that like a grain of salt. And in the dead of night, what they did is they transported this car up to Canada.
Really?
Yep. And once they got it up in Canada,
They figured it was safer there, huh?
I'm sorry?
They figured it was safer there?
Well, to get it out of Ford's sites.
Okay.
And it spent most of its years up in Canada, and really that wasn't unusual for that period of time. I've talked to a number of people that can confirm this story, and the most recent story was that Ford did send an investigator up to this junkyard where these cars would end up at, because they were looking at a motor that never was introduced, and by golly, that motor was in that junkyard.
Really?
Yeah. So anyway, they were more or less told, well, yeah, you found the motor, but maybe you ought to just keep quiet about it. Okay, so they did. And,
Okay.
And that's as far as it went. Now, It came back down from Canada because the owner at that time had some financial problems. Okay, so then it came back into the United States.
All right.
Okay.
So, of the three that were made, where does this fall? Was the first one, the second one, or the third one that was
That's a good question. Okay. Project Cayuse started with 3 vehicles. Okay. Cayuse number 1 is now located in Idaho.
Okay.
And the fellow that owns it, I am friends with him. I've never seen pictures of his car, nor have I met him. Okay.
Okay.
Cayuse number 2 was actually remade and shortened 18 inches and became the Ford Coyote, a one-off. Okay. Now, Jack White, that ran Dearborn Steel Tubing, said he wanted a Cayuse. So with the remaining parts, they took and built Cayuse number 3, which is actually Cayuse number 2. Okay. And I know that to be true based on a book by the name of Ford Total Performance, written by Martin L. Shore. He dedicates about 3 or 4 pages into what I have just said.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's factual.
So this is number 3.
Number 3, but in the scheme of things, it's the only one that's being shown.
That's right.
Okay.
Now, when they developed this, let's talk a little bit about.
First of all, if you look at this car, the hood is all fiberglass. Okay.
Okay.
The hood scoop is a non-functioning scoop. Okay, it's built for looks, and it was called European asymmetrical design. When we look at the back of the car, you'll know why. Okay. The grill shell was removed from the Falcon that they were modifying, and they made this grill shell.
Okay.
And just recently, I found out the substrata for this grill shell is wood.
Really?
Yes. And they use this grill shell.
Well, it was a prototype, right? I mean,
it
wasn't a production car.
It wasn't a production car, and they just wanted to make something that would look pretty. Okay.
Right.
Actually, this grill shell was used for Cayuse number 1. The sequence was different, but whatever. Okay. The other things that they did do, and if we can walk around here.
Oh, yes.
All the trim was removed from the side doors and stuff.
Clean up the lines.
They had a more of a radical design here. A regular 63 will come across here like this. Okay, now let's look in the back. This is what I was talking about from asymmetrical design. The hood scoop follows the license plate.
Yeah, I like it.
They put a grill in the back. The trunk, inside the trunk, there is a fuel filler. Now you can see here where the regular 63, the fuel filler would have been right here.
There.
Well, that's a great idea. However, it's activated by a solenoid, and if that solenoid doesn't work, you don't get any fuel, and you're unable to open up the trunk because the plate between the trunk and the back seat is metal to house the hydraulics for the drop top. Okay. The other thing they did do is they welded a plate in here where the license plate would have been.
Okay.
And then they had it re-chromed. But I'd like to share with you the story of the wheels, okay? Now, when I bought this car in 2001, it had period correct wheels.
Okay. Not
these wheels. And it's a 13-inch wheel, which is very hard to get now as far as tires and stuff. So fast forward 2 years. We had formed a Falcon Club, and we decided to go out for ice cream at Selma's Ice Cream Parlor in Afton, Minnesota. I don't know if everybody knows where that is, but it's great ice cream, okay? So we were out there getting ice cream. We had our cars in a line, and a blue and white Futura convertible with Michigan plates pulls up in our line. This is true.
Okay.
And I was standing there just as I am now, but there's no signage around. And a guy comes up to me, he says, "You own this Cayuse?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I've got the wheels. I got the original wheels." I said, "No way in hell." And he proceeds to tell me the story. He did have the wheels. One of a million.
No kidding.
I've got a picture when I was at the Henry Ford against the building, and I could replicate that picture right now, 100%. These are the original wheels that this guy rescued from, and this guy that I'm talking about was a high school guy at the time.
Okay.
His father owned a photo shop next to Dearborn Steel Tube, and when Project Cayuse was discontinued, he saw them throw out the complete set of wheels in the dumpster. So he told his son John, well, it might be a good idea to pick those wheels out of the dumpster, and John did.
Okay.
He graduated high school, graduated college, went to work for Ford, transferred all over the country, and for some Saturday, and then he ended up the Ranger plant in St. Paul.
Okay.
And he decided he wanted ice cream that day, okay? So he decided he'd go to Selma's Ice Cream Parlor. He pulls up in our line. I've got the original wheels. What do you think of that, huh?
that couldn't happen again if you tried to recreate it.
It's like...
And all those years, and he knew, he must have had an inkling of what he had his hands on.
Yes.
Because
well,
he must
I'm not so sure he did. I don't know.
But at some point, he must have put it together that was working for Ford. I'm sure he,
going,
wow,
sure.
I've got the rims for a Cayuse that was built right here, and someday I'm going to run across them. Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing they weren't in that shape when you got them.
No, I put a lot of money in these wheels
to get them re-chromed and fitted in.
Re-chromed and cleaned up and stuff.
Yeah, but still, just to have that.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, it would have been lost to history.
Well, so nobody else.
They actually correct rims on there. That's just amazing.
No, it's, and I could share. I mean, you don't have enough film in your camera. I can share stories with you that are unbelievable.
I bet.
Yeah.
Now, besides the design features that we've talked about, was there anything done to the interior of the car?
Okay, the interior is original. However, if you look at the dash and look at the clock that's on the dash, if I was to take that clock out and sell it on eBay, I'd probably get $1,500 for it.
Just for the clock? Just
for the clock. Another thing that's unusual about the interior is that I found out it had a factory installed four-way flasher. Now, you didn't see many of those back in '63.
Huh.
Did you?
No.
I never did.
No.
And then another thing that's unusual about this particular car, it's got a 4-speed transmission, and the transmission is a Dagenham transmission. Ford had a manufacturing plant in Dagenham, Michigan. Dagenham, UK. Okay, and they used to make Ford Sun tractors over there. They didn't go with this transmission in mass produced because it was a weak transmission. Okay. But it's fine behind my motor.
Okay.
But
and this would have been the original motor that you would have found in a regular Ford Falcon.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, just a different transmission.
That's correct. Yeah.
Interesting that they chose to change the transmission, but not the engine or modified. It's interesting what companies choose to pick on to say we're going to change this, but not that, or.
Well, but if you talk about that really wasn't entirely true because the Cayuse number 1 had a 260 V8 in it that they bored out and he had a 289 hyper.
Oh, okay.
So they had a V8.
Okay. Yeah. So they did have some modifications on the other ones.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Now, it's obviously a convertible top.
Right.
And it's in great shape. Oh my.
Thank you.
Gosh.
Yeah.
And the paint on here.
Yep.
You happen to know what color that is?
I've been asked a lot, but we tried to match it as much as we could. Now, it was painted one time before up in Windsor, Ontario, Canada, when it spent time up in Canada, okay? So let me just share with you. The hood was fiberglass.
Yep.
And over the years, I had a lot of problems with it bubbling up in this area here.
Okay.
So what to do? I spent a lot of money trying to fix that situation, and to no avail, because it kept on bubbling up. So I said, well, I'll find a Corvette guy that works on fiberglass.
Right.
And I found one, a fellow in Hutchinson, Minnesota, and he took a look at the hood. He says, I think I can fix it. Okay. There was 8 or 9 coats of paint on the hood.
Okay.
And which caused the bubble. Because it didn't expand, it didn't, it did.
Yeah.
So he took it all the way down to the base coat and then rebuilt it.
Okay.
So I shouldn't have any problems, at least in my lifetime.
It takes an expert to kind of figure that out and spot and go, well.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it is a beautiful color.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
And that top is just,
yeah.
I mean, this looks, I'd say this probably looks better than it did when it was sitting on the display line for Ford.
Probably.
I mean, it's just amazing. So,
probably, yeah.
But other than the transmission, the interior was pretty much still a Falcon.
It was all original.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Ford was basically looking on the outside, kind of like, what do you folks think of this? And then,
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, does the top still work?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Ralph, there is a unique story on how you got this car.
Okay.
So tell us that story.
I'll be happy to. Okay. Let's go back to 2001.
Okay.
Okay. We were into collector cars. My wife had a 61 Falcon plain Jane that we got out of Des Moines with 15,200 actual miles. And It's a beautiful car. It was used in movies and whatever. But fast forward. My mechanic, I live in Cottage Grove, Minnesota.
Okay.
My mechanic was in Red Wing.
Okay.
About 40 some miles away from Cottage Grove. Okay. And Bob calls me, he says, Ralph, there's a Cayuse on eBay. I didn't know what a Cayuse was. He says, well, I'll be there in a few minutes. 40 miles, he made it Mach speed, okay? And the auction was ongoing, okay? He gave me the magazine article that it was in. By the way, I've got a lot of magazines articles right now.
Yeah.
So we waited for the sale to end, okay? And had anybody bid on that car, I would not have it, because I don't buy stuff that I can't touch, feel, and see.
Right.
So back in 2001, eBay was a lot looser with their privacy expectations and so on. So I was able to actually, I knew who was selling it and their telephone number, okay? So now I call them up. I got the article in front of me. And I said, does it have this? Yep. And then the killer question that I had was, if this is so rare, why are you selling it? And the guy said, well, I just want something else. And I said, okay. So I made him an offer. He accepted the offer in contingency, of course.
Yeah.
And my contingency, or his. And I said, okay, I'll arrange shipping. And I flew to Detroit, actually New Baltimore, Michigan, which is a suburb of Detroit. Okay. This fellow had worked for Ford in the experimental area even then, okay? So I found out why this was just one item that, it didn't really mean a lot to him, okay? His garage was full of stuff like this.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
And when we got to where the car was, he pulled off the tarp, and there it was. He says, I suppose you came here for this thing. And I said, yeah, great, So what you see, apart from the wheels that we already talked about, is what I've got.
Well, Ralph, thank you so much for taking your time.
Oh, by golly, thank you for allowing me to tell a story.
Well, we love to hear a good story about a great car with a great person. So thanks for sharing with us and our viewers.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks a lot.